Society, Punta Gorda Historical Society is about the preservation of the buildings.
Yes.
So-
What about the Charlotte County Historical Society?
That is more about the history of Charlotte County. The Punta Gorda History Center is more of, is a archive for more, not the buildings, but more of historic artifacts and documents, and for research, and yet also display. So we're going to be, we have a current exhibit. We're going to have a new one that's going to be coming up. And so, and it was started because Vernon Peoples, quite honestly, the Charlotte County historical group lost some of U.S. Cleveland's documents, and Vernon Peoples said he did not want the county to have his documents because he did not trust that they would be maintained. And so the organization was started to preserve his expansive collection. However, we've now been getting more and more things. So it is more, work in partnership as an historic history group, but different from,
And then how does the archive that's going to be at the new Punta Gorda Library interface with, do you interface with them at all?
We have worked with them. We were working closely, much more closely with them when they were across the courtyard from us, but now they've moved in much consolidated space, and
So they were there and now.
they were
they're
there, and
gone.
we were really excited about that, about the possibility of having a whole history campus. I think to have, actually, if the cultural group and we're right across the courtyard from us out there, it would be a great history campus. And there's lots of space. That building is, I think, 6,000 square feet, perhaps the larger building.
It's just other stuff used. That's why part of it is with their study. I mean, ultimately, it's the commissioners and what they want, and so we just have to make a case.
Well, and I looked at the deed and read through the deed, and I told Howard yesterday when I looked at the deed, we gave them the property to have a library built on it for use as a library. It is no longer going to be used as a library. I think they should give it back. And that it would become a city facility.
Or
And then-
a city expense.
Well, it could be, but we need a community space. We have all these organizations that use the Bayfront Center and the Boat Club, and at some point in time, we're going to need more space for them. So I think that there's.
So part of it is trying to think of ways to actually pay for it, because this is an expensive building, air conditioning, all that, and that's, I think, when the commissioners decide what they're going to do, it's going to be based on probably the finances, to be honest. And that's why, as much, that's what I'm saying, this collaborative, I think works well, because I think many organizations can bring together also when it comes to applying for grants and dealing with the state. I think it will make our case stronger if we can have this type of relationship.
Did you have your hand up, Gary?
So, just so I'm clear, what we're talking about is in regards to the history in a multicultural center.
Yeah.
So it'd be also a facility that would be open up to community meetings of various sorts.
Oh, yeah.
It'd also be a potential repository for foreign archives and foreign libraries that wouldn't normally be at in the Punta Gorda Public Library. And my impression is that these various organizazations that have been involved in this directly and also to the periphery have already committed to donate the materials to get this up and going.
Absolutely.
And the idea of cooking classes was the way to integrate and express cultural differences and continuities among ourselves in a fun-filled way, and also have a nice treat along the way, and to be able to encompass this as a universally communal type of organization. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and bring, and for the bed tax aspect, history tourism is the boom right now, and we are an historical area. And part of why I went to a meeting with the Polk County Historical Society 2 months ago in Bartow, we talked about even putting ourselves, a relationship back together, because, you know, Bartow was pretty much who gave birth to us, and even maybe doing some railroad things between us and there. But actually, really, because, you know, 2021, Charlotte County's 100 years. And so part of this idea about this is really promoting this as a way to really celebrate Charlotte County in a grand way. And so that's why kind of what, you know, with what Kelly brought to the table today, it meshes very perfectly, because the whole vision is showing who we began as and who we've become now. And so I think this is just something that can be good for the community in a big way.
You know, I liked what Kelly had to say, and it was well articulated. Based on the fact that the county moved the offices up to Murdoch, and much to the dismay of a lot of people, I don't have any sense of real direction from what they want to do with that space. But I know that, you know, some other people really want to see the county have a history museum like they used to have over on Bayshore, and certainly would support something of that nature, which could be in concert with, could be multi-purpose. I think having multiple groups use a space that is multifunction would be.
And again, I see that, I'm 100%
Best.
with you. I'm saying this, honestly, we're going to present to the commissioners, and they're going to say what they're going to do, whether it's use this or use this or use nothing. So ultimately, the best we can do is put together the best program we can and pitch it. That's kind of where our power lies.
But if we have a, as a body, a interest in 1 or 2 or 3 particular groups,
Yeah,
even
it
if this
helps.
building doesn't become available to them, that still leaves us in a position to try to associate and influence the establishments
Of these things.
for these groups.
Yes.
Because I could foresee this, a multi-use building like this to facilitate, it might be the focal point to start a Ukrainian festival that would spill over to Lashley Park.
Oh, yeah.
And that's great, because that's what we would want to see, and it might be a Latin festival, and it might be, you know, whatever, you know.
Or History Park, that's a great place to have
Or
an
History
event.
Park, which is right nearby, so.
That's part of what the thought was,
Yeah,
too. History
that's-
Park being
yeah,
right
good
there.
point, yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that we're going to get bigger than History Park would be able to.
Yeah, what we liked about
Facilitate.
the Gray Street campus is because we're by the schools.
Oh, I 100%
there to
with you.
educate the
If
children.
they're willing to, like, allow more of that building to be used for these purposes, rather, that's the issues. I don't know what their plans are. I don't want to speak for
Over on
them.
Gray Street?
Yeah. what
Yeah, I
their
think
real
that was
plans are.
why I was encouraging you to have a conversation with David Milligan.
Yeah, I am. I spoke with Mary Grant about that. We're going to do that. But that's more the issue. It's, you know, pitching for the one because of proximity to the park, but
Right.
honestly, wherever they would give is where we would get, so.
Do you envision it being operated and owned by the county or by the city?
Neither. It would be organized by the organization.
So you're going to buy the building?
No, it would be leased to the organization. I mean,
That's what my question is, by whom? By the county or the
because
city?
the county owns it.
Okay, so it would still maintain a county
Yeah,
ownership?
yeah. We're just giving, and hopefully our opinion to
And
support it, but
in
this
our,
is 100% county.
yeah, the county is responsible for certain things
Yeah.
to do with the building, and then we had to, got the
You
facility,
had
and
to build it out?
we had to build it out.
Okay.
Getting back to a point, though, that Nancy was making earlier, that is if, because of the way it was deeded, I'm getting to know
It had
idea.
to have been turned into a library within 5 years, or it reverted back to the city.
Okay, so they fulfilled that obligation.
Yes,
It
yes.
wasn't for
They did.
perpetuality.
They did, but I
Okay.
just said that was the intent, was for a library, and it's no longer going to be a library, and so,
I would like to see it be kept in the county's hands and let the county decide what they're going to do, but we could make suggestions to them of some of these ideas that have come forward and that kind of thing. But I don't see the city being a landlord for this project.
No.
I think it would be a very bad idea.
at this point in time.
Right.
So what do you want me to communicate to the county? Anything?
I mean, we like the ideas, the top 3 ideas that have come. I mean, if there could be all 3, some kind of
That's fine.
It sounds like
multi-use space
A
with,
multi-use,
Fine.
a multi-use space that is
That houses
com-
both the history center
the
and.
history, well, not necessarily,
I'm sorry, the
historical
Charlotte County Historical Society, is that correct?
it's, what-
You gonna,
No,
I just said
No,
Charlotte
she
County.
just said
Charlotte
Charlotte County.
County.
She just said it.
no, we know that, it's a
can't
Charlotte
yell from
County.
the audience, sorry.
Sorry, Kelly Gaylord, resident. Just a clarification, Charlotte County has things a little different than the way we do hear things in Punta Gorda. So we have the Punta Gorda Historical Society, which you
Yes.
agree is buildings, the History Center, which is archives. What they do in Charlotte County is the county itself has staff under the library services, and it's called the Historical Center, because they keep changing the name. And it used to be the Historical Society Center, but anyway. There is a separate nonprofit Charlotte County Historical Center Society, which all they do is raise money and give it to the county to use for buildings, historical buildings, and the archives. But the county itself allocates money to manage and collect the archives and also buildings like the Cookie House, and there's a couple other places. The cemetery. Several different historical locations and buildings. So they're organized a little differently than we are here, but the county itself pays for and has staff to maintain those facilities as well as the archives. What they used to also have was a museum, and then the museum got shut down because the building deteriorated. So what we're looking for is to recreate the museum. Again, that the county has said that they will fund and staff. So those historical center staff that are now got moved up to mid-county library would be the ones that would staff that museum. Does that kind of help?
Why did they take them out of the Gray Street
Nobody knows.
and put all their stuff in storage?
Well, the stuff went to the archives in Englewood.
Okay.
And some stuff is eventually going to make it to the new library, because that's another archive. But right now, we're never given a good answer on that.
Okay,
And I think this is why this approach.
thank you
saying
for the
it's-
clarification.
Is good, because we've gotten love from the county regarding the Cultural Heritage Center project. I think if we can incorporate historicals into it, we're still on the same trajectory, so there's less uncertainty, because we've gotten a lot of positive movement on this. That's what I'm saying, it may be a way. Sorry.
Martha Beretta from the Blanchard House Museum and the Cultural Heritage Center. One of the things that's evolved is that from the beginning, it started, of course, as he said, with the Blanchard House. Florida Gulf Coast University is involved, the Tourist Development Center, and we have talked to the other historical groups in town. The vision for this is to show Punta Gorda or Charlotte County history. We would have the history of Punta Gorda there, presented by the Punta Gorda Historical Society. We have the history of the county there. But our history didn't stop in 1921. Our history has expanded so that we are now a diverse community, which is why the whole idea of having a cultural heritage center. We have people from Ukraine, we have Irish groups, we have the Puerto Rican groups. We have all of these people, Filipinos, who are very much into buying into this idea, who want to be represented. So what it will be Punta Gorda, Charlotte County, Punta Gorda, Charlotte County, and who we have become. The one thing that's good about the idea of us being historical and keeping it as a history, our history as we grew, is that 2 years ago, there is funding specifically for a cultural heritage center. What we want to do, though, is incorporate all of our history into this. What we were told is if we got a building, then the city, the county, there's not a worry about money, because this is one of the projects, because we will be the only center in Florida. One of the reasons why the tourist development is interested is because what they foresee are cultural heritage festivals during the summer that bring people into the city, because we are talking about Southwest Florida. We're talking about putting people in beds in the summertime. In fact, what they've suggested is the cultural heritage kinds of things take place in the off-season so that we can continue to employ people and we can fill hotel beds. And so having these 3 historical groups together, showing who we really are now as a county and a city, is very appealing to the state of Florida.
Thank you. So the recommendation would be to,
What I'm hearing,
I don't hear support for the city taking over the building.
God, no.
I don't think it's a good idea at this time.
okay,
You're talking about repairs and maintenance, utilities, everything that goes with them.
If that's already been mentioned, yeah, I mean, that's kind of,
It could be a
Well, we're-
problem.
A lot of
yeah,
money.
that's a lot of
And that
money.
building is in disrepair. I've talked to a couple of the
I think
county
we're agreed.
commissioners.
But do we want to go forward with suggesting to the county who we would like to see in the building?
I don't know that it's our call.
No, I don't, but it.
It's not our
but
I mean, I
certainly
think
could-
the shared use is the best.
Yeah, I
word is
agree. I
suggested.
totally agree. I
Shared
think that would be,
use.
that would be the
Shared
best
use.
of all worlds.
Yeah.
If you could
So-
incorporate some kind of a local civic center type of meeting
Meeting
facility,
space,
and you
yes.
could have the cultural group, you could have the history group, you know, it would be the best of all worlds. And maybe we just do one simple letter of support for that from the city to the county.
and I take off the list the 3D build systems business.
That's a private sector kind of that's an actual business, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they're in the Englewood Innovation Center. It's kind of quasi. It's quasi. They're in a building now in Sarasota County, but they do want to expand down here. I mean, the stuff is really, really cool. They don't need a lot of space. I mean, it could be some little workshop that they could start with if it's
Then maybe they
possible.
would let them use some of the space over on Gray
Great
Street.
Street, actually. Yeah, actually near the school. That would be a very
That
good
would be
idea.
That would be excellent,
Right
because it's near
across
the
street from
schools.
the high
Yeah.
school.
It's near the schools.
I'll let
and I-
him know.
That's a very good idea, and
And
maybe
then,
a better use for that
And I
building
like
over on
the
Grace Street.
shared space, because the cultural, it's the cultural center, the history center from the county.
I'll take them off the list.
And don't forget too, the new library is gonna have some type of meeting space in the new facility. So,
But they already use their meeting room all the time at the current library. That meeting room is gonna get used a lot at the new facility too. There's already a huge list. Yeah, I would just say, just do a letter of support endorsing the 3 organizations that have come forward, and
Sounds good.
maybe have it be a composite use building if the county commissioners would be agreeable to it.
yeah,
FYI, there has been discussion in the county to equip the libraries with 3D printers.
they do have them in some of the libraries.
Okay.
And that's on the agenda for this one, too.
I will send it to county administrator. Be prepared that if the county does not need the space, they may request that they either sell the building, or if they give it to the city, it's going to be up to us to maintain it. Better be prepared for that.
Well, when we get that decision, we'll discuss it at that time.
Bridge when it comes.
Okay.
I think we can be creative.
Let's kick that can down before we have to open it.
Okay, next we have recommendation from city officers. Howard.
No, 5:01 PM budget.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
City attorney.
As you may know, we had a hearing in circuit court on Friday for the court to consider several motions to dismiss in the Vivanti case. The judge indicated that she would hope to have her decision by this coming Friday. You might be interested to see, if you haven't already received a copy of the supplemental memorandum of law in support of the city's motion to dismiss, get a copy of that and review it. It was very interesting as to what I found when I was doing the research regarding the statute that allows citizens to challenge decisions, land use decisions of the city on the basis of consistency with this comprehensive plan. And as I dug deeper into it, it became more apparent to me that this was a home rule powers play between the Florida courts, the legislature, and municipalities. So if for no other reason, you might find it interesting from that perspective. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have city clerk.
Yes, under boards and committees, starting with vacancies, we have a 3-year term for an alternate on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Nominations, we have 3 3-year terms on the Board of Zoning Appeals and 5 eligible applicants for nomination.
Nominate all.
Thank you. Okay, also, under nominations, we have a 3-year term as an alternate with 1 eligible applicant. That was Mr. Hoagland, who introduced himself. If you'd like to nominate and appoint by motion, you may do so now.
Nominate and appoint.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to nominate and appoint Mr. Hoagland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
I apologize. Who was the second? Councilmember Crafty or Matthews? Thank you. Okay, and lastly, we have 1 appointment. Here are your voting forms. This is an unexpired term for an alternate on the Historic Preservation Advisory Board.
And the appointee is Ms. Andrea.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I don't have anything written down under policy and legislation, except we will be back here at 5:01 tonight. So council member comments, let's start with Gary.
Okay, just so I don't forget at a future date, now that we're progressing with Buckley's Pass, have we explored any grant money available to help us in that regard?
No.
It's come to my attention that there might be some funding available at the West Coast Inland Navigational District.
Yeah, part of
And
the
Mr.
MAC,
Deutsch-
part of the MAC committee?
Yeah, and Mr. Deutsch Stephen Deutsch is on that, so that might be an area that we'd want to investigate. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say.
That would be nice.
Yeah? Nancy?
No, nothing today.
Nothing. Citizens' comments, any topic, please make your way to either one of the podiums, state your name. You have 3 minutes. Citizens' comments. Seeing none, we are adjourned.